Welcome to the Concrete Voice, where commercial real estate meets real technology. Today, I'm really excited to have Topher Stevenson, co-founder of CRE AI Studio, on the show. Topher, great to finally record this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Topher, for people hearing about it for the first time, what is CRE AI Studio and who did you build it for?
So, CRE AI Studio is an online learning platform for commercial real estate professionals who want to get ahead of the curve and stay ahead of the curve when it comes to using AI in commercial real estate. So, the general idea is on a weekly basis, we provide one key kind of step-by-step video tutorial on how to execute, a very specific task or a very specific workflow in commercial real estate using some combination of AI or automation tools. On top of that, we'll do live sessions. We do at least one live session a month, but normally it's closer to one a week or one every couple of weeks. We're starting to bring in some outside experts in addition to ourselves, myself, Jonathan, and Nadine, who just kind of have a wide array of experience from across the commercial real estate industry, and so they're coming in and doing kind of live Q&A sessions and showing people in the community what they're working on and letting people just kind of ask for feedback about it in real time. And then last but not least, we have kind of 24/7 Q&A service. And we just want to do our best to make this the most valuable platform that it can possibly be for folks in commercial real estate who want to do the same, want to start working AI into their business and putting these tools to work.
Wow. Well, when we met in Porto this mid-October, I told you openly that I was searching for a credible way to help my teams and our clients to become more fluent in AI. And then the most training out there feel too generic, and honestly, like most AI courses today look like they were written by AI, right? Lots of prompt engineering theater, as I say, not much
Yeah.
that helps Siri professionals do real work and do it more effectively. So I think that's why your studio immediately caught my attention. And I wanted to ask you here, what gap did you see back then? And what has changed since the day we met in Porto?
I think the major gap was just that people were asking me for it. 2.5 years ago, I started just kind of putting together a lot of content around, the same kind of thing, just practical, tactical. Here is a specific way that you can use AI, do a specific thing in commercial real estate. So it started out with kind of social media posts, and then it led to, hey, social media posts aren't necessarily the best vehicle for this, because if you make something too long, the more useful you make the information, the less likely it is to get engagement and actually get seen by a lot of people. So I started putting together a monthly newsletter, with just kind of tips and tricks and practical ways that you can put the AI tools to work. And so started doing some courses here and there, but I realized the difficult thing with doing a course on AI is just always changing. There's always something new happening. And so that's kind of how we boiled it down to what we're doing in CRE AI Studio. It's not just a fixed course. Like we would be lying if we just said, hey, take this 8-week course and now you're just an AI master and you're always going to be in. We put together a weekly lesson plan covering out the next 6 months. But as these tools are changing, we're adapting what we're teaching in these specific lessons and in these tutorials. And if something comes up that it's really, really important and we know people are interested in, we'll kind of rework the lesson plan. And people really want to learn how to do this. It's come a long way in the last 2 weeks. We got to show people how to do it now, because you could do things with it now that you couldn't do a week, or a month ago. So that was kind of the general idea, was this stuff is always changing. People want to get ahead of the curve, but they want to stay ahead of the curve. And so we're providing them access to the materials and the ideas that they need to do that.
Let's get back to the commercial real estate topic. So the application and the request I see from our clients, the patterns, is that people don't want abstract concepts. They want AI applied to the workflows that they touch every day, like prospecting, marketing, pipeline management, back office operations, and of course, reporting, many, many, many things. And that tells that commercial real estate needs real education. Let's talk for a moment about the impact. From your perspective, which parts of commercial real estate stands to gain the most from AI right now?
In the future, I think the biggest gain based on what people are doing and how people are kind of maneuvering and trying to position themselves is just being able to work with data. That's what the AI firms are doing. They're trying to get as much data as possible. Everyone's kind of in this big race for data. And I think there is a lot of long term value in that. Commercial real estate, it's a very deal focused industry, and there's so much work that has to be done that is not necessarily germane to getting a deal done. And so, how can you use AI in a way that actually saves you time immediately? Isn't just using AI for the sake of doing it because AI can do it, but you got to go back and forth with it like 18 times for it to get it right. What's something that AI can do for you to immediately save you time so that you can spend more of your time leaning into the activities that actually generate more deals, actually generate more cash flow, and actually kind of add value to yourself or the firm.
Yeah, from what we see here at Ascendix, the highest ROI is very consistent in document automation, like proposals. We even do our proposals with the help of AI tools, reports, packages, summaries. But to your point, data and data structuring is crucial, right? If your data is a mess, AI can't save you. It just makes mess faster.
It gets even more nuanced when you're talking about what's the most valuable thing that a company could do versus what's the most valuable thing that a person can do. Because the answer is it's different no matter what, no matter you're talking about companies or you're talking about people. But it's even more nuanced when you're talking about individuals, because from the company perspective, there's just a lot to be gained really quickly from automation when it comes to the company level. It doesn't even always have to use AI. But when it comes down to the personal level, just everybody is so different. We're seeing so many different ideas inside the studio and even outside the studio, on LinkedIn, on from other people in commercial real estate that are using it in ways that we haven't even necessarily thought of. And they're doing it that way. They're doing those things because it's something that's going to save them time. So, proposals and information extraction from documents, that's kind of super powerful almost for any company. We're talking about data still. It's like, hey, you want to build up a really, really good database. There's just so many ways to, hey, you receive a document, could be an offering memorandum, could be a lease agreement, could be a purchase and sale agreement. There's so many ways to just automatically extract that information using AI. And then through automation, put that information wherever you want. And so it could be in something like Ascendix. Hey, all of a sudden, your internal comp database is automated. That was someone's job before that they probably didn't necessarily like that much. And now they can spend their time working on other things for the firm that, are a little bit more important than just kind of doing manual data entry. Or if you're a broker, and you want to keep track of all the open deals, that you think your clients might be interested in. That same exact framework, hey, the document comes in, we extract that information with AI and we put it somewhere. That's something that can be useful for companies, but also for individual brokers or individual ownership groups, because you get that offering memorandum, all of a sudden the information's sucked in and you have an ongoing deal database of just all the different deals that you think your clients might actually be interested in, instead of just kind of scattered across a messy share drive. And there's ways to do that, I'm sure, with Ascendix. There's ways to do it with just kind of off the shelf automation platforms, and then there's some of this bespoke solutions out there like DealGround, that covers that particular topic pretty well. But when it comes down to the individual level, something I'll tell a lot of brokerage leaders is, hey, if you have a brand new analyst or a brand new junior broker, can you create a AI automation or a custom GPT that's automatically going to put together their LOIs for them and save them time? Yeah, you can totally do that. That's not all that difficult to put together. Do you want to give that to a junior broker who hasn't typed up 50 LOIs yet? Probably not, because when are they actually going to learn to put together an LOI? It depends on what firm you're at, what kind of resources do they provide you, what kind of work are you stuck doing yourself? and what of those things aren't necessarily the highest and best value of your time. I could talk about this for hours, but it's something I'll always cover at my presentations, and we cover this in CRE AI Studio, is just something as simple as, hey, how do you use AI to put together your decks? And it could be you're building an offering memorandum, or you're putting together a proposal to pitch new business, or it could even just be a brochure. And some brokers come up to me and they're like, hey, I work at CBRE, or I work at this giant firm. We got a fleet of people making brochures. But I don't really need that technology. You should come give a presentation for our admin team. And it's like, hey, that's great. I could certainly do that for you. But then I'll have five other people come up to me and be like, hey, I work at a 3-person shop. We're stuck doing our own brochures all the time. This is going to change my life. I spend hours and hours per week just putting together my own brochures. Now I can do that in a couple of minutes using AI, and it looks better than what I was putting together before. So I know I just talked a lot, but again, it just kind of all comes down to commercial real estate is such a nuanced industry. The things that are going to save you time are different, from asset management to property management to brokerage to the ownership groups to the attorneys. And it all comes down to identifying those things. What are the things that are sucking up your time that AI can do for you reliably, and then figuring out how to put it to work.
Yeah, and I like you mentioned several tools, and I wanted to ask you one additional question, kind of to develop on this topic. If you look at the emerging technologies right now in the AI world, like LLMs, integrations, agentic systems, copilots, which ones do you believe will actually have a huge influence on our industry over the next couple of years?
I mean, definitely LLMs, like that, they've already had such a huge impact. And I think part of that is because it's just so accessible. For $20 a month, can just do things with technology that they never would have been able to do before. And it's very personalized. I think the more impactful technology is going to kind of change the lives of people in commercial real estate is these automation platforms. Everyone loves talking about AI agents. You got to build an AI agent. That word is so overutilized that it's lost all meaning. Most people have no idea what an AI agent actually is anymore. But with an automation platform, you can go from getting AI to do a specific task for you to getting AI and automation to do a whole range of tasks for you that cover a complete process. Hey, I want to take that OM that just got emailed to me, automatically extract some information, and then just email me the summary. That's one task. But then you can take that same information, you can map it to your database, and then you could queue up the next step in the automation, be, hey, monitor for any additional emails that come through on that email chain. And so if anything changes with that particular deal, all of a sudden it updates that specific deal. There's kind of a separation in the learning curve because a lot of people will learn to use LLMs, and there's only a certain number of people that will actually learn to use automation platforms. But if you can learn to do that, if you can learn how do I trigger this automation to fire up, if you can get good at writing prompts so that, hey, the automation's fired up because I got this email, or I received this document, or I put it in a folder. Now I want AI to do something with it. How do I write that prompt? All of a sudden, a whole range of possibilities open up of AI doing work for you. And you don't even need to open up the LLM to do it. It just gets done because the process got started. So I think overall, LLMs are going to have a larger impact because more people will use those than people that take the time to learn to build automations. But I think the people that do take the time to learn to do that, they will see a much larger impact on themselves and in their organizations.
Yeah, fair. You said about agents, and it reminded me that I actually played with that a lot and built the agents for myself. And we've, of course, in one of our previous episodes on Agent Force, we were talking about like Salesforce technology, AI technology, and it's basically all built with agents. So you need to have an instruction, you need to put the guardrails, you need to prepare the prompts and all of that, and then your agent becoming your assistant, your copilot, whomever. I've recently built on Microsoft Copilot an executive assistant agent for me because it just has all the access to, we on Microsoft stack. So we have like Outlook, all the emails, all the Teams chats, all the SharePoint documents, everything that, and it is secure. So it accesses the files that I have access to, and it provides the reporting, the following me up on some action step that might have missed from the last week, creates all the emails, everything that your executive assistant would do. One of our co-founders thought he has maybe 10, 20 agents doing different stuff. He's also developing a lot. And speaking of developing, agentic coding is a thing that might not, strike the commercial real estate audience immediately, but it actually makes a lot of sense because we are using agentic coding for both product and consulting work.
Hmm.
And here is when it gets real. So our engineering estimates have dropped dramatically with agentic coding. A year ago,
Estimates meaning like the time it will take, for you to produce something.
the time, yes, and the budget, of course. So a year ago, a heavy custom project like, with high volume data processing, complex logic, might easily be like $5 million engagement.
Hmm.
And today, with agentic coding, the same scope can be delivered for less than 1 million.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
that's not hype. These are the projects that we're already doing.
The reason I think the whole agent thing can be overhyped a little bit is just because people throw the word around so much. AI powered automation workflows. There's a lot of people pointing at those and saying, "Hey, I built an AI agent." I don't think it's bad that they're doing that, but just people creating AI powered workflows, it's something that it's not all that complicated to figure out. It can have a massive impact. And the people that take the time to do it, will see a monumental impact. But do you mind if I ask you a question?
Of
Because you brought
course.
up AI powered coding. So you guys are in the commercial real estate SaaS business. Do you think there is a danger of vibe coding and people just saying, "Hey, I'm going to vibe code my own SaaS products and I'm going to stop paying for things like Ascendix or similar, SaaS platforms?"
Well, the short answer is yes, of course. The vibe coding is a thing. I believe it started maybe at the beginning of this year, or at least when I started paying attention to it more so. Yeah, everybody can just vibe code their own application right now, but you need to have some skills. And these skills are mostly about the ability to analyze the business and the problems, and the ability to create the instructions for agentic coding that you use for vibe coding, actually to execute and to provide something really valuable. The commercial real estate expertise, right? The communication skills, because it's very important for this type of coding, and actually understanding the coding itself, security, level of defects, the scalability. You would want to extend it with more functionality. Those are the things that are important for the architecture. And
It's going to be difficult to manage all that just yourself. And then if you leave the company, who's going to manage it after you?
right. So yes, there is such
Yeah.
a risk with the release people with appropriate skill set, but we try to keep those in house.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think you're right about on the money. I think there's a lot of things that AI can do. I think when it comes down to, companies kind of in replacing their external SaaS tools that they're using with something that they vibe coded, there's just a lot of risk. And it's like, what are you really good at? What's the highest and best use of your time, as a person and as a company? I work with a brokerage and we have a CRM, and I'm certainly capable of vibe coding things, but if you ask me, "Hey, am I going to vibe code our own CRM tomorrow?" I'd say, "No. That's going to take a lot of time. That's not what I want to spend my time doing. I don't think it's the most valuable use of my time."
yeah. It depends on what is the core of your business, right? So, for example, we have developed numerous AI applications inside our company to automate, to speed up, to increase productivity of our teams in different departments. But the infrastructure that we use to support our business is reliable, secure systems, right? We don't wipe code them. We don't want to invest in security of these tools, thinking about the architectural patterns, actually building the team around, building the infrastructure for whole organization. So that's one of the examples on how commercial real estate firms can look at it. And usually depends, of course, on the scale. Not every company has their IT department. They don't
Hmm.
have to
Yeah.
have it. So talking about tools, I know that you've tested a large number of tools and platforms. And if someone wanted a practical, starting point, what are your top three tools or maybe platforms right now?
That's a great question. I think it does all kind of come down to, hey, what is your role and what are the things that are sucking up your time? Because that's going to dictate kind of what would I say are the top three tools for you. But personally, I think the first thing that I would recommend, and this is not necessarily a specific tool, it's a feature, of basically every major LLM right now, and that's deep research. And so what does that mean for commercial real estate? Two layups would be market research. Everybody's got to do a lot of market research. Hey, we have a tenant that's considering expanding into a new market, or maybe we, as a ownership group or as a brokerage are considering expanding into a new market, and you need to synthesize and gather and understand a lot of information really, really quickly. There is a giant mass of just publicly available data on those markets that you can access with deep research super quickly. And it can be great for identifying, potential deals as well, because there's all these properties out there that, say you're looking for distressed properties, a lot of signals that indicate a property might be distressed are public facing signals, and that's information that deep research can often go in and access and provide you a report on. Or if you have a listing and you're thinking, hey, I got to fill this retail space, who's expanding in the area? Deep research can very quickly scour a whole slew of news articles to find examples of a certain bank just has announced, hey, I want to open up a bunch of new locations. And he can provide you a targeted hit list of ideas, companies that might be a good fit to go into that particular space. So, deep research, I would say, just has so many implications on commercial real estate. Everyone should at least experiment with deep research and look into some ways that it can save you time. A huge topic in commercial real estate is just decks. People spend so much time on proposals, on marketing materials, on brochures. And even if you don't need AI to work on your brochures, just think of all the other marketing materials that you're putting out there into the world, that just don't look that good. All of a sudden you can use a platform like Gamma or GenSpark, or there's some more bespoke solutions out there that can, very quickly and effectively take some written content and put together a beautiful marketing pitch deck or brochure or, resume or whatever you want to put together extremely quickly. And then you just have to jump in and make some edits, make sure it looks good. And that can be a platform that is not only good for individuals, but it's also an easy platform to operationalize, within a company. If you already have a designer, you show them how to use something like Gamma or GenSpark or one of these other platforms. Henry AI is one that's kind of more bespoke for offering memorandums. And all of a sudden, they're lightning. They're on steroids. They can just do a lot more than they were capable of doing before. One that I think is one of the most useful for me personally is something like NotebookLM, and Microsoft Copilot has its own version of this, but everybody wants to use AI to access their information and their docs, and they don't want AI to make stuff up. Not everybody has a giant interconnected database with an AI agent hooked up to it that can go in and retrieve all the files that it needs at the right time. And so NotebookLM is just a really convenient solution for that. It's AI that's grounded only in the sources that you provide it. And so if you want some information from a lease agreement or all the lease agreements for your building or your rent roll because you want to figure out what tenants are coming up for renewal, if that information's inside NotebookLM, you can just query that information. You can get whatever insights you want, and you can do it very quickly, and you can rely on the information much better than if you were just using something like ChatGPT. Say you did some market research with deep research. Now you want to synthesize that information in different ways. You can take all that information, pop it into NotebookLM, and create a podcast for yourself that you can listen on the way to your next site visit or the next tour, or again, kind of whatever your role is in commercial real estate. And then, the final piece of it, I would say this is definitely true on the brokerage side, is the cold calling side of things. Just kind of going out and finding property information, finding out who owns it, finding the contact information. I got to at least give a shout out to Terracotta. They have a lot of rave reviews from customers that are using their platform for just that. That's kind of a wide ranging, smorgasbord of tools. But again, it kind of all depends on what's really taking up your time and what tool you can use to get some of that time back.
Wow, that's definitely a pretty long list of tools to consider. You mentioned NotebookLM, and that's sparked one idea in my head, and actually one memory, because we were considering NotebookLM. That is a part of, you'd say, the Google Workspace ecosystem, right? So if you're working with the Gmail, if you're working with the Google Drive, then NotebookLM is a great tool for you. If you're working on Microsoft stack, like with Outlook and Teams and all of that, then Microsoft Copilot would be a better solution, just because it has access to all the data already.
Yeah, it's integrated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's integrated. So you need to wade in and understand what tools are already available for you in your stack and try to leverage those. And of course, don't limit yourself and explore other tools from other vendors. Maybe you'd want to migrate from Microsoft to Google Workspace.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good point. It's like, hey, Copilot might be easier to use, if you're already on Microsoft, but hey, what if your organization isn't using, the high level Copilot and you don't have access to that, or you don't have the right permissions or privileges, and you just kind of haven't figured all that out? There's a lot of things can be operationalized with these external AI tools, and so, for example, I have calls with folks, and I get meeting transcripts from those from my AI note taker. Those automatically go to my email. My VA automatically watches for those when she takes those meeting transcripts and she puts them into one of a handful of notebook LMs. And so, would it be nice if notebook LM just
mhm.
automatically had access to everything? Yes. It doesn't have every single document that I've ever had ever, living inside a notebook LM. But again, it's all about percolating ideas and kind of showing folks what's out there.
Sure, yeah. And if you find the excuses or limitations for not using AI tools, that's not the right way of thinking, right? Not the right mindset.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely, you should look at the tools that are available for you. But if they're not, go and research and join the CRE AI Studio and find out about other tools and try them out. Let's talk honestly about our industry. Commercial real estate is known for being cautious when it comes to adopting technology. In your view, why has CRE historically lagged in adoption of new tools and systems?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And people have been having this discussion since I got into commercial real estate. But I do want to say, as an aside, it has come a shockingly long way. Like when I first got into commercial real estate, I was on the commercial real estate, like property marketing side of things. And I came from a digital marketing background, and I would Google commercial real estate marketing and nothing comes up. No one's talking about it. No one's even, blogging. And it just became very apparent that, like, wow, no one is using just like digital marketing best practices in this industry. This is ridiculous. There's a lot of people that are starting to lean into technology and starting to lean into, digital tools. But again, we kind of keep talking about the idea of the individual versus the organization. It's tough at the organizational level. You know this better than I do. I imagine when you're trying to come up with a SaaS product and it's like, hey, we're going to serve commercial real estate. Okay, what does that actually mean? Who are you serving in commercial real estate? Because it's not such a giant industry, but if you try to make something that works for property managers, it's probably going to have very little utility for a broker. Maybe it might have some for an ownership group, but probably not going to have much for a commercial real estate lender. And so you break in a little further into that and you say, hey, okay, we're going to be something that serves commercial real estate brokers. There's more nuance there too. Are you talking about leasing people? Are you talking about investment sales people? Are you talking about tenant reps? And the more you try to cater to everybody, just the odds go down that it's going to work very well for any one particular person, because it just the problems you're trying to solve are very niche problems. It's difficult for, I think, the SaaS companies to get it right. And then a lot of SaaS companies, I'm not saying you guys do this, but they promise that they are getting it right. And then a commercial real estate group spends all this time migrating over. They realize it was not the right decision, and they're already too fatigued from that transition to want to even try to do it again, to try the thing that might actually be the right solution. So, I think part of it just being a very segmented industry, to some extent older industry. It's not that old people don't want to use technology, but sometimes there can be some hurdles there. Multi-generational is probably the easier way to put it. You try to roll something out to a company, there's going to be younger folks that just pick it up like lightning, and then there's going to be some folks that are closer to the top who might have a little bit more trouble with it. People are apprehensive to come into it, and then if people do come into it, they have a good tech background, but they don't actually understand commercial real estate. There's just kind of so many facets at play. I'd be lying if I said I had the perfect answer of exactly why it hasn't always worked out. But I think, and this is part of the reason I'm so excited about AI, everybody's excited about technology and commercial real estate in a way that I've seen for the first time, because AI has made technology so much more accessible to so many more people. So my gut instinct is that this new wave of excitement is starting to change that lack of adoption. So sorry for the long answer, but that's my take.
No, that's great, because my view is quite simple. Because commercial real estate is relationship driven, as you said, it's deal focused, and at the same time, it's extremely risk averse. So the mindset is still there. I can see that, like, if the old system works, don't touch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if the system is a spreadsheet from 1998. Uh,
Yeah.
and you're right, commercial real estate is not slow anymore, but it's still cautious. That's the biggest challenge that AI can help solve by being more accessible to people. To your point, like $20 and you have ChatGPT available for your, and you can do prompting, you can do custom projects there, GPTs, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there is an interesting paradox here. Everyone says that AI is transformative. Everyone talks about it, and everyone is curious, but actual adoption is still surprisingly low. Why do you think is that?
I mean, I think it depends on what you're talking about when you say adoption. Like, and I'll ask people, "Hey, where are you at with AI?" And the vast majority of people have said at least like, "Hey, like I've tried ChatGPT, or I'm using ChatGPT in some way." So, does that mean people are adopting it? Not necessarily. It kind of depends on what level of adoption you're talking about. But people are open to it. But then when I ask something like, "Hey, who's used deep research before?" This is a feature that's been around for over a year. If you ask anybody who considers themselves pretty AI forward, they'll probably say, "Yes, I'm using deep research," but way less hands go up. Way less people are experimenting with it enough to actually find the most valuable components of AI for their role, if that makes sense. I think it's not necessarily a lack of the resources being there, which, in the past, that was kind of a problem with technology and commercial real estate. Now you have myself, you have other voices in commercial real estate who are very forward in technology. And so I think that content and that kind of training and education is starting to percolate. And now it's just a matter of getting it out in front of people and making sure people know that it's there and know how to use these tools and know what kind of value it can provide them, and also literally what button to click on. I did a one-on-one training with someone the other day, and they were like, yeah, I know about deep research, but where do I find it? It's like, oh yeah, that's a good
Mm.
question. Like, if you don't use it all the time, you literally, there's not just a banner at the top saying, hey, use deep research here. You got to be able to go in and find it. So I think those are kind of, some of the hurdles. It's not necessarily that the information isn't there and people don't want to do it, because the sense that I'm getting is that people really do. It's more just getting that information exposure and getting people access to it.
Toffer, this was incredibly insightful. When we talked about it in Porto, I felt that what you're building was necessary, and today's conversation confirms exactly that. For me, it always comes down to AI only works when commercial real estate knowledge is built directly into the workflows, and generic tools don't cut it. So when we talk about ChatGPT, Claude, agentic workflows, prompts, all of that is very important. But most importantly is your knowledge in commercial real estate and application of these tools to the right workflows. So where can people follow your work and learn more about CRE AI Studio?
Absolutely. Well, you can find more about CRE AI Studio at creaistudio.com. It's a very cheap domain name, so we were able to scoop that up pretty quickly. And by the time this podcast airs, we actually, for the first time, are going to be offering a 7-day free trial to anybody. So we haven't really done that in the past, but now that we, have a lot of momentum, we got a great community of people. We have a lot of content and a lot of lessons in there. We kind of want to open it up and make sure people get the exposure to this content. So anyone who wants to jump in and click around for 7 days, you're more than welcome to do that. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Topher Stevenson.
Thanks again, Topher, and thanks to everyone listening. This is The Concrete Voice. See you in the next episode.
Thank you.